Back here on the Above the Rim Coaches Show, we're going to talk some men's hoops. The Huskies are at a tie right now for first place in the NSIC, along with Southwest. After a 2-0 weekend in North Dakota, we're joined by the head coach of the Huskies, Quincy Henderson. And, Coach, a road trip that is never easy. A lot of logistics go into making sure you get back to North Dakota and play those two games and get home safe. And your team went out there and got a couple wins. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's, maybe the longest road trip for us during the course of the year. So that presents its own challenges in terms of, do you try to practice out there? Do you practice at home? Two very different gyms. You've got the Dome at Minot, and then you got a pretty tight, smaller facility there at Mary. So vastly different shooting backgrounds, and then two different styles of play with Mary, who presses an entire game and plays a matchup zone, and Minot, who plays a little bit more in the half court, but really pushes out in transition. So, I was happy our guys were prepared for both of those, and we're ready to go after what was a pretty long road trip.
What kind of things go into a week as a coaching staff when you do have two teams that are so different? You're playing them back-to-back. There's only that 22-hour window between games. How does that look like from your guys' standpoint?
Yeah, I think it's maybe different week to week sometimes, but if you're playing that Friday, Saturday, you're trying to rep some of Saturday's stuff early in the week, whether that be Monday or Tuesday. I always like to get guys to get live reps against what they'll see in that Saturday game, so they can kind of come back to that pretty quickly as we walk through shoot around. And it's, okay, 3-4 days ago we worked on this, we've been through it, know what it feels like. So that's kind of the prep for that. And then you kind of 2 days before really hone in on that Friday game. And the Thursday, Saturday is a little bit different than how you approach that. You still want to get some live reps because you're normally not going live on that Friday in between games. So we're still kind of figuring that one out on how to do it, especially if you're traveling and you're leaving, a day early, like when we go to Wayne and Augustana, you're leaving on Wednesday to play Thursday. You're on the road Friday, then play Saturday. So that'll be the first time we do that. But you're always tweaking, things, and you kind of got to see where your team's at and what they can retain and how they respond to stuff.
Well, let's start with Friday night, a 71-57 win over Minot State. Talked in the pregame with Connor a lot about how athletic Minot was, how they like to get up and down the floor. Transition D was going to be a big factor for you guys on Friday night. And I thought for the most part, barring maybe I can think of 2 or 3 breakdowns in transition that they got buckets, I thought you guys did pretty good transition D on Friday night against Minot.
Yeah, that was a big focus going into that game. I think Minot, was probably the most athletic team we'd played to this point. And there's probably some similarities for us when we look at Concordia and how hard they run out in transition and really push. And certainly what Minot wants to do, and the Deuce Benjamin kid is, he's quick and he can score and he's got a quick trigger, so we knew we had to contain him, especially in transition. I thought he got free a couple times in the first half where we didn't sprint back and we were a bit slow in our recovery, but second half I thought we shored things up and actually did a pretty good job of forcing them to play in the half court a little bit more.
I made a comparison on Friday night during the game between Deuce Benjamin and the guy that Minot used to have in Kahari Broadway. They both like to kind of work from that 15-foot range, especially in the half court. Now, in the open court, it's a little bit different, but in the half court, they like to kind of get to that 15-foot range and work from there.
Yeah, I think both players had a lot of freedom within the system, and certainly Benjamin has that, and rightfully so. His percentages justify it, and what he's done in terms of scoring the basketball has. So, yeah, we tried to stay between him and the bucket as much as possible. We knew if he got by us, we were going to be in some trouble at the rim because he's a pretty athletic guy. And, overall, you don't want to make a guy like that more or less a volume shooter to get to his average. And we had a few different guys on him throughout the course of the game. And, he still, I think, went for 16 or 18. I can't remember, but was relatively pleased with how we guarded him throughout the night because he's had some really big performances in some other games.
Well, the second chance points we talked about after the game was a big factor in this one. You guys had 19 second chance points. You rebounded the ball on the offensive glass well both nights of this week. But I thought the 19 points on Friday were huge just because, I mean, you win the game by, 14, and you have 19, second chance points. How big are those? I mean, how important is that to make sure you cash in on those opportunities?
Yeah, I don't know. We normally call that breathing life back into a possession after you have a missed shot. And those are things we try and normally take away from other teams. We didn't necessarily do that against you, Mary, the second night. But it was particularly when you're not shooting the ball particularly well from three, you've got to give yourself second chance opportunities, or your points per possession really drop off there. And our guys went to the glass, and I think they were pretty strong finishing through some contact. It turned into that free throw parade kind of at the end of the game, going both ways. But we stuck with it. We kept going after it. And certainly that's something that we try to do and something we need to do to be successful, as does any team in the league.
Well, then Saturday you guys go to Bismarck. You take down Mary 72-60. The first half, a little uneven. You guys got out to a 15-point lead. They hit, I think, 5 of 8 three-pointers during a stretch to close the half that got them back within striking distance right before the break. But it felt to me like you guys just sort of needed to get to halftime in that first half. That just they were kind of riding some momentum, and that halftime was going to kind of resettle the ship.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we had a few breakdowns defensively and lost guys through that period of time. And yeah, I don't know. But you're coming off that Friday game. I don't know if a little fatigue set in later in that half, and we were just slower getting to shooters and weren't talking as much as we needed to. But I think the halftime was a good reset. I think we held them to maybe 1 of 10 from three in the second half. Our talk was cleaner. Our switches, when we did that, was a lot cleaner. But that's the way games go sometimes. It's particularly with the way Mary plays in that matchup zone. You can run different things against it. You just kind of got to find the thing that works sometimes, and the rotations are always changing, so it's hard to tell where guys are going to be at. And I think we did settle down in that second half. Kind of figured out what exactly they were doing within that. We exploited it, got to the bucket, got to the foul line a few times, and were able to open the game up a little bit.
Well, that was going to be my next question. And, the ability to attack that matchup zone from the guard position with, obviously, Luke was tremendous getting into the middle and hit Lee for a couple of backdoor layups, hit Anish for another one. And then I thought Nate also did a nice job of kind of attacking what they wanted to do with that zone, because the middle on Saturday was open.
Yeah, it was. And if we watched a fair bit of film, obviously, and we've seen that in previous games. So, it was something that we expected to see at some point. We tried to take advantage of that a little bit in the second half. And then you got to actually finish through contact at the rim, because they do a pretty good job of getting into those jumping wall ups. And I thought Luke had some great, what we call bully finishes against a strong jumping wall up where he hung in the air and dropped it in. And we had guys in rebounding position, if he was to miss that thing. So the guys, yeah, they responded well. They took the contact there and had some really strong finishes at the bucket.
Back here on the Above the Rim Coaches Show, part 2 of our conversation with St. Cloud State men's basketball coach Quincy Henderson. The Huskies, as I said, right now in a tie for first, the Northern Sun with Southwest at the top of the standings. And, Coach, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, and I think it sort of remains true. The margins in this league are just so small right now, and everybody's kind of beating up on everybody that you can't take anything for granted. Any win in this league means something right now.
Yeah, it really is. I think you've seen it kind of on both sides of the spectrum, whether it's North versus South or just South and South playing each other. Yeah, the margins are small. I always say it, we're not really focused on what other teams are doing particularly. We're really focused on kind of our process and what gets us ready to compete at a high level each weekend. But if you're not prepared, no matter who it is or what the record is, you're going to be in for some pretty hotly contested games everywhere in the league.
Well, you guys will take on Bemidji State and Duluth this weekend. It's a 4-game homestand, kind of sandwiching the trips in the north. You'll go to have home games against Jamestown Northern, then trips out to Moorhead and Crookston. Always fun to play at home. You get 4 straight home games. Don't have to worry about traveling. How much do you like that over the course of 2 weeks?
Yeah, it's nice to settle in at home for a little bit. You have your routines are pretty consistent when you're at home. Food, all that stuff is pretty consistent. You're not adjusting, and then you have access to your gym. Guys want to shoot in the evenings before those games. They've got that option, so there's certainly a big benefit. And then you got your home crowd as well. So happy to be at home for four, but now you actually got to do something with that home advantage.
Well, let's start with Bemidji State. That's the opponent on Friday night. I believe it's Henry Shannon III. This dude is having a really nice season. He had a Player of the Week type weekend, despite the fact that they lost both games. What kind of challenges do the Beavers present?
Yeah, I think they're scoring at a high clip. They're 82 points a game. Obviously, the Shannon kids scoring over 18 a game, shooting 55%. The Pekarich kid has really taken another step with his game, averaging close to 20 or something around there, and making 4.5 threes a game at 42%. So those are pretty high clips and good percentages. And I think as a team, they were near top in the country in 3-point percentage early on. I think it may have settled a little bit, but we're going to have to be ready for that. It's a bit of a contrast in terms of they shoot the three really well. They shoot a lot of threes, and we've been fortunate to defend the three pretty well through this first part of the year. So I guess it'll be their potent three against our potent defense, and hopefully we're on the victor side.
Then Saturday, Duluth, the team that is off to a pretty good start this year, did lose a couple this weekend at home, but we know how talented they are. A very well-coached team. What do you think of the Bulldogs so far?
Yeah, it's the same, physical style play that we've seen the last 3 years. And, again, they're playing a couple of young guys, but have a pretty mature team overall with, Sywick, who's in his fourth year, and Paulson, who's a redshirt senior, plays inside. Katona is a fourth-year guy. Manny Thompson's, I think, a fifth-year guy. So those guys play heavy minutes. They rely on them for consistency. And we're going to have to be good offensively against them. Certainly it's normally been the case, but it'll be a physical one. It always has. I would expect that there'd be no difference there.
One thing I forgot to ask you about from Saturday, Bob doesn't play in the game on Saturday. It's your first win without him this year. How important is he to your team to be able to get him healthy and keep him on the floor right now?
He's their second leading scorer, and shoots a good percentage. Just does a lot of things on both ends of the floor. He's pretty steady, and he's a competitor. So we're just a better team. When he's on the floor, I don't think there's any question with that. We can still win games if he's unable to play. But we want to have him on that floor as much as we possibly can.
How much does his toughness change things for you guys too?
Yeah, he fits the mold of kind of what it is we look for and what we want. That's why we recruited him heavily, coming out of Australia, and then went after him hard again when we saw him going to the portal, because we knew he brought that piece of the game, and that's of such value in this league of all places, where you're allowed to play a little bit more physical. So, he's we're at our top side when he's in the jersey.
The other guy I wanted to ask about that doesn't maybe get the headlines because he doesn't score a ton of points, but he does a lot on the defensive end and gets to the free throw line. Lee Marks, I think, has been very good this year, especially what he brings defensively, what he can do kind of from that baseline in your offense. What do you like about what Lee's doing right now?
Yeah, I think he's been, competitive. He's asserted himself within the offense really through the last few weeks here. I think he's been playing pretty well. I want to say he's maybe second in free throw attempts on the team. So he knows how to get down there. He works his pivots. He can get guys up and finish through contact. And then you get obviously a pretty consistent guy defensively on and off ball. I think he does a great job. He's always in the right spot. He came from a really good high school program where they preach defense, and he was kind of their defensive stopper. So he's just picked up there. He's put on some weight from a year ago. He's a bit stronger, and I certainly think that's helped his game.
Yeah, it's been a good start. Hopefully, with 4 home games, you guys can keep it rolling. Coach, I always appreciate the time. We'll talk to you on Friday night.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.